Thank you, dear viewers, for joining us on this edition of the Primetime Newscast on Equinoxe Television, live from our headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. My name is Pablo Jonathan, and our top stories in this edition of the news. A civil aviation expert says that the troubles faced by the national airlines company Cameco are caused by incompetence. He says that the company has been hijacked by a group of incompetent individuals. It has been grounded for several months and announced plans of resumption of activities postponed at least twice, and over 20 persons who were in captivity in the southwest region of the Republic of Cameroon have been freed by security and defense forces. They have been handed over to the administration and they will be heading to their families. They are already in contact with their families in the southwest region of the country, and tension is rising in Guinea ahead of the presidential election in that country. A senior military officer has been killed just 2 days to the presidential election. Thank you once more, dear viewers, for joining us on this edition of the news. We're going to begin with information concerning the national airlines company Cameco, which has been grounded for several months now and announced plans of resumption of activities within the national territory and postponed at least twice. A civil aviation expert attributes the challenges faced by Cameroon's national airlines company to incompetence. David Sinati thinks that the company has been hijacked by a group of incompetent individuals and the company needs to go through an overhaul. Details in this report by Fomi Armstrong Sander.
Since its launch in 2011, the Cameroon airline company Cameco has been plagued with financial difficulties, managerial and technical setbacks, which have all held down the star of Cameroon from taking off. To Mr. Adi Davidson, an aeronautical engineer, the problems of Cameco are foundational.
When the idea of Cameco came up, the then Minepat, Louis-Paul Mutaze, set up a commission of about 5 or 6 experienced people to draw up a plan, to come up with a new name, decide what are the routes you want to do, what is the explanation, what is the content of our new airline. When he did it, somewhere along the line, this project was hijacked by an individual in the Ministry of Transport. And Mutaze, being the person he is, wasn't ready for a fight. He just said, okay, if that's what you think you need to do, I'll give up. They did it, but they did all the wrong things. And it was clear to everybody that that project wasn't going to work, except those who had a lot to benefit. And from that time to today, you do the calculation, the government has invested, they have poured money, they have made effort, and it is still not working.
One of such many efforts was in 2016 when Cameco benefited a proposed recovery plan proposed by Boeing Consulting. The plan had, among other things, to clear some 35 billion francs CFA debt, the injection of some 60 billion francs CFE, the resize of Cameco's network to about 23 destinations, updated fleet and increased number of aircraft to 12, among others. But today, the company, after going silent for months, announced a relaunch with a rented aircraft, which however failed because of other problems.
For now, all we are having are just adventurers. When the airline could not take off because of a problem of insurance, that is so elementary. The guy who went and decided that we will launch on this day should have a checklist. We should have asked, have we got aircraft? Have we got insurance? Have we got, and so on and so on and so on. Only then would he have said, yes, we've got everything, we can now launch. But it's embarrassing.
He says renting an aircraft to relaunch is not a good idea.
When you go and take an aircraft of the type of the Ukraine, it will be a short-term measure because the aircraft is rented, the crew is rented, The maintenance is paid for by the company, and the cabin crew even. And you can imagine how many pretty girls and how many handsome young men we have in this country who could be stewards, flight attendants, and they cannot.
The expert says what Cameco needs is a total overhauling.
Let's get a reliable partner. We get consultants and work out a project. We should include what do we want the airline for, how are we going to do it, what are the tools we are going to use, plan it, make out when we are ready, and we work out how much that will cost. We can now go to the government and say, this is what we intend to do.
Cameco has had 6 managing directors in 9 years, but several of its aircraft are grounded due to lack of money for maintenance, and the air carrier no longer operates its regional flight.
Speaking to the press yesterday here in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala, the Director General of Cameco, Louis-Georges Ndipenji Kwoto, explained why the announced plans of resumption of activities has been postponed at least twice. Take a listen.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to Cameco. I wish to welcome the Director General of AXA Insurance Cameroon. Ladies and gentlemen, you are invited today to listen to the declaration I was to make before you concerning the report or the cancellation of the flights that were scheduled to take place tomorrow. This cancellation which is due to the fact that some administrative procedures related to the insurance coverage that was made by AXA, our partner, have not reached to its end. Cameco, therefore, regrets all the inconvenience related to this situation and promises to its customer that everything would be done to settle the issue in a very short term. For those who had already acquired their tickets for trips tomorrow, our agencies are open for any operation of cancellation or refunds. This will be done without any payment fee. But our operations are going to resume in a very, very short term after the procedures are closed with the reassurance of AXA. I once again want to express the deep regret of the Cameco entire staff for this situation. Thank you very much.
Louis-Georges Ndipenji Kwoto, Director General of the Cameroon Airlines Company, speaking there. Now to the southwest region of the Republic of Cameroon, the senior divisional officer of the Meme Division said that if pro-independence fighters don't drop their guns, the security and defense forces will continue hunting them. He was speaking after having received some 20 ex-hostages who have been in captivity, and of course the hostages were freed by security and defense forces. They were being presented to the senior divisional officer of the Meme Division in the base of the Rapid Intervention Battalion in Mabanda. Details with Manjik and Gebre.
Some weeks ago, there were hostages in the hands of alleged separatist fighters in Taliwan 2 and Besali in Banyu Division and Lebialem respectively. Their promised land is Kumba, chief town of Meme Division, where the hostages reunited with their family members.
Now, as they don't catch we, councillors, waterhead, nobles, the 2 vice chairmen.
After they kidnapped us, they said we are to buy a gun that cost 1.6 million francs CFA. and totally we were to raise 32 million francs. We were taken to Besali. They separated us into 2 different prisons. One was called Kondengi and another was a central prison, giving snake beatings without food. They gave us these marks saying it's anti-bullet, but it was a way to make us not to run away because the army will kill us thinking we are separatist fighters.
This mark where they give us on a mark for Deshi. So that even if we come out, when military is show we gonna show me amber, they kill we. So it caught we.
There were a total of 20, 17 men and 3 women. The SD of Meme, in a strong tone, said if the separatists don't give up, they will continue to hunt them down.
Destroying innocent people, and me, the NTO, with the forcing on and order. Let me say it here, that I will remain no effort to hunt them if they don't want to surrender. I am the oldest SDO in the whole Southwest. I will continue to hold them if they don't want to surrender.
Amongst the 20 hostages was a little child whose mother was also kidnapped.
Don't hold it. I am your part. They will continue to protect you. Okay? That's it.
The commander of the Sid B military region based in Mabanda Kumba says the fight will continue if the other armed leaders don't drop their weapons. Ayeke was not an easy person in the struggle, but after his demise, I think our next operations wouldn't be very difficult. As you know, there are still at least 2 or 3 other big generals left. We are asking them to drop their arms and surrender. If not, the military will do its work.
Tout ce qu'on peut leur demander, c'est de se rendre, c'est de déposer les armes, de se rendre. Sinon, les forces de défense et de sécurité vont continuer à faire leur travail.
The ceremony that saw the hostages reuniting with their family members took place at the B base in Mabanda, and it's coming days after General Ayeke was killed during an operation in Besali, Wabane, the BLM division of the Southwest region.
And as guns and violence and destruction rage on in the 2 Anglophone regions of the Republic of Cameroon, journalists have been urged to be fair in their reporting of the 4-year-long conflict, and they are also being encouraged to always analyze and measure the impact of what they report on the communities concerned, and also to make sure that they are contributing in restoring peace in the 2 Anglophone regions of the country. Some of them were being trained by officials of Define Hate Now and Peace Journalism in the northwest region of the country, precisely in Bamenda, on how to go about reporting in a manner as to avoid creating more harm or adding salt to the injury, so to speak. Take a listen to the country director of Define Hate Now, Gala Desmond, in this extract.
Media for Peace is a program motivated from a peace-building standpoint, and the main idea behind this has been that the media should be able to report conflicts in the right way. We should report conflicts fairly. In conflict reporting, it's not just enough to have the facts maybe from one side, but we should be able to know what facts we have, from where are we gathering these facts, and how to gather these facts. It's important that we analyze each conflict and know how this conflict affects different communities before we report them. In a peace-building strategy, we would always tell the journalists and the media men that it is better for us not to break the news, have the news late and have it right, rather than trying to break the news and at the end of the day, you either cause harm to one party or the other. Our expectations here have been that the journalists be equipped with the right tools to report conflicts, most especially sensitive conflicts, the right way. And being in Bamenda today, having this training with journalists from Bamenda has been that right time for us to engage the media on this. Journalists from here, after this training, should be able to avoid spins in journalism. They should avoid signposting, journalism of hate. We know that these are core values. It would also be very important that journalists have a paradigm shift on the way they report conflicts. We know that in conflict reporting, it becomes very difficult for a journalist, most especially these who has limited resources, to be able to get the sides of all of the two parties. But we would say that don't just get the side of two parties, but get the sides of all the parties.
Ngala Desmond, Divine Hate Now country manager for Cameroon, speaking there. To Penja in the Mongo Division, littoral region of the Republic of Cameroon. Now, 3 persons have been severely injured and several others rendered homeless by wild flames. The fire incident started at about 2 a.m. last night. Immaculate Fogwe reports.
Some residents of Balibong in Penja, Mungu Division, littoral region of Cameroon, have been evacuated after raging fire broke out in the neighborhood. The ravaging flames that sparked off at about 2 a.m. engulfed a photographic studio, a bar, hairdressing salon, and 3 apartments. Material damages worth millions of francs CFA are reported to have been lost as a result of the fire incident. We managed to contain the flames. Thank God no life was lost, but enormous material damages were registered. After hearing my neighbors shouting, I ran outside to see what was happening. I noticed that fire had engulfed several buildings, so we decided to contain the flames with water and sand to no avail. We had no choice than to struggle to get inside the house in order to be able to remove some of our goods. A survivor applauds the efforts of the population and God for saving his life. Fire had already engulfed my bed while I was sleeping. I struggled to escape. When I got outside, I saw neighbors struggling to turn off the flames. I am really grateful. The 3 injured victims are currently receiving treatment in a nearby hospital.
Out of Cameroon, tension is rising in Guinea following the killing of senior army officer Colonel Mamadi Condé. It comes just 2 days before the country's presidential election, and of course President Alpha Condé is running for a controversial 3rd term in office. Armed men shot Colonel Condé dead in the early hours of today at a military camp in Kindia, 130 kilometers northeast of the capital Conakry. Residents of the nearby neighborhoods heard gunshots at 2 o'clock local time, and heavy shooting continued for over 5 hours. There were reports of an attempted mutiny, and that soldiers had seized weapons to free some of their colleagues who had been detained. In a statement, the Minister of Defense declared the death of Colonel Condé. Authorities said that the situation is now under control and that a search is underway to find the soldiers involved. Talking Point is up next. Thank you for staying with us in Talking Points. Our guest today is an educationist and author, principal of Presbyterian Secondary School, Douala, Dr. Hans Bokwe Etoe. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Mr. Babila Jonathan, for inviting me to talk about education in the Equinoxe television.
Right, you are the author of My Days as a Mission Teacher and Hard Realities.
You are right.
My Days as a Mission Teacher. You highlighted a number of challenges which you went through, which you had to brave to carry on with your career, and which are challenges that have been faced by other teachers, not only in mission schools, but most private schools. The teachers are crying over the same challenges. Can we just come back to some of those challenges that you faced in your days as a mission teacher?
Yeah, you are right, Mr. Babita Jonathan. Indeed, it's very, very challenging. Working in a mission school is a sacrifice. It's a vocation. And being there as a mission teacher, you come to work at 5:30 a.m. and you only leave the school at times at 10 p.m. So there is a lot of suffering, a lot of hardship. But since we are working in the God's vineyard, we take everything to God, and we believe that one day our reward will come from God and not man. So it is a lot of routine work that we do in the school, and my days as a mission teacher requires the experiences of Bolanga into a Makulo in a region called Yokola, and you find him, despite the fact that there's plenty of hard work and low salaries, which Bolanga into a Makulo earns, the mission, the only language that the mission rewards to you is that God is going to bless you. God is going to reward you. So it's a lot of sacrifice, a lot of hardship, a lot of trials and temptations that we go through in the mission school.
Why is it that there are lots of trials, lots of difficulties, many challenges that the teachers go through in the mission schools?
Yeah, we are living in an imperfect world, and the society as a whole, working in the church as a mission teacher is not very, very holistic, because the society as a whole is divine and at the same time it is human. So the human perspective, the human aspect that you find in the mission school overrides at times the spiritual aspects. So we have it as it's a kind of trial that even at times the students that we recruit, when we recruit students to come in the mission schools, they come with different motives. But I quite remember sometimes when I was in PHS, Bisawama as principal, the idea of mystery, the idea of witchcraft tendencies was what prevailed in that school. And we tried by all possible means to make sure that this idea of witchcraft tendencies should be wiped out from the school, using the pastors and the chaplain who were there at that time. But so this is, being in a mission school, it is a lot of sacrifice, a lot of sacrifice, but there are trials and temptations which we go through every day.
This is a paradox, because it is generally believed that the good example should come from the church and the institutions that are attached to the church.
Yes.
Why is it that there are too many such difficulties in the church milieu? Generally, some persons will tell you, but the church has a lot of money. Why is it that the teachers are not well paid?
Well, you don't know how the church actually runs. In the senior office where I belong, what I'm talking about here, I'm talking about a particular church. I'm talking as a mission as a whole, what actually operates in the mission circle. If you see very well that our own job is holistic, it's actually holistic, and there is no money that we earn in the mission school. But what we sacrifice, what we give as sacrifices, what we offer as services in the mission school is enormous. That is why at the end of it, you have low salaries, you earn very low salaries, but at the end of it, you discover that with the low salaries that you earn, God is blessing the money and you do wonderful things that you don't imagine. It is very true that we earn low, the work is rigorous, but at the end of it, what comes out of it, even ourselves, we are very surprised that God is blessing us and we are doing great things. Today, I'm an author of so many books, and people ask me several times, where do you have time? As a principal of a school, as a mission worker, we know very well that you work for 24 hours a day. Where do you have time to come out with all these publications? It's by God's will. But the church too should know that when there is hard work is supposed to be rewarded with something heavy in our pockets.
Hard work is supposed to be rewarded with something heavy in the pockets. But when we look at you were talking about the outcome. When you look at the results of examinations, official examinations, look at the performance of students from mission schools, generally there is a step ahead of the other students coming from government schools and other private schools and so on, despite all these challenges that the teachers are facing. What accounts for that?
Yeah, what accounts for that is, the first thing is that we don't believe in money. We believe in offering services. Our own job is holistic. And so what we do is that you must know something, that life is full of vanity. And if you follow wealth to a certain extent, you may not find it. So in a mission school, what we do in a mission school is that it is service first. And that is why the teachers sacrifice a lot to make sure that what they are giving to the students, they are giving to the students by facts. They are training them to be holistic. And at the end of it,
giving them spiritual, moral.
Indeed. Moral upbringing and everything. And what happens in the society is that if you train a child just of the brain without training the heart, that child becomes an intellectual thief. So what we are doing in the mission school is that we train the children by their brains, at the same time by their heart, giving them holistic education. But this does not cancel the fact that if you are sacrificing to make results, the church as a whole should not step up the salaries of the teachers. We are actually suffering in the mission school, and we believe that something should be done to step up our salaries, so that we also can also talk in the public that we are working in the mission school. But I can assure you that we don't follow money, we don't follow wealth. But in some way or the other, money is the key. And when there is money,
it's a motivating
factor that at least when there is money, when there's some high salaries, it can push the teachers to a certain extent to score better results from what they are even doing now.
Is there an issue of poor management? Because it's difficult at a certain point to understand why the teachers who are teaching the students, who are teaching the pupils, who are in their numbers, paying not peanuts as school fees, but paying reasonable amounts of money as school fees, and not being adequately compensated.
Yes, the fact is that we are of the private sector, and by the policy of the private sector, we go on negotiated salaries. When we were recruited from the onset, there was a barème given by the Minister on Private Education. So the church as a whole is following by that barème that they give maybe to first degree holders. If you are a first degree holder, you come in with category 10, and category 10 is about 71,615 francs. So it is a barème that the government has given, and that is why we are encouraging the government that they should step up the barème of mission teachers and even teachers of the lay private sector, so that they should come up with something. So the mission is not doing something bad, but they are following what the government has given them in terms of barème to operate mission schools. It is very true that the fees that the children pay is a little bit colossal, it's a little bit high, but these fees is being used to feed the children in the school, to pay teachers, to do development, and therefore we are calling on the government that what's being generated as income in the school cannot suffice to pay the teachers enormously as compared to government teachers.
So government has to come in with, what about subvention? Subventions, are the subventions reasonable enough to be able to?
We appreciate the government of Cameroon for what they are doing to mission schools and also lay private schools, but we are saying that the subvention that they give to mission schools is not sufficient to manage the school, because subventions are meant to augment the salaries of teachers. But what we give as subventions in mission schools is too little. It's too little indeed. For example, maybe like the Presbyterian Church in Cameroon, where I belong, if they give a subvention of 30 million francs to all the Presbyterian schools in Cameroon, what can that do? It cannot do anything. Like in my own school, PSS Douala, we have been allocated 3 million francs. What can 3 million francs do? Will it be to feed the students? Will it be to pay the salaries? So it becomes very difficult, and that's what we're telling the government, trying to encourage the government. Since we're in partnership with the government, we are trying to say that they should augment the subvention that they give to the mission schools, so that teachers in the mission schools can be better paid, like those in the government, because all of us are doing the same service, all of us have the same objective, all of us have the same target, to educate Cameroonians and also foreigners who come to our schools wherever you belong.
And enrollment has significantly increased in some of the schools, including your school, welcoming many students coming from the southwest region, some coming from the northwest region of the country because of the violence there. How are you managing the influx? How many students have you received, first of all?
For now, the students are still coming. For now, we have almost about 800 students in the school, and it is because of the Anglophone crisis that we have this influx. Because normally in the school, we used to have about 450 students, but because of the Anglophone crisis,
the number has practically doubled.
Has actually increased in a dramatic progression. And that is why we are advising those who are involved in this conflict, be it the government, be it the separatists, that there is nothing in life. There is nothing in life. All what we are facing in life is vanity, and one day we shall leave this earth. And the question that we keep to ask ourselves, what legacy are we going to leave to our children who will come? So I'm calling on the separatists and calling on the government to resolve this issue so that people can go back to their places. Like, for example, in our own system, which is called the Anglo-Saxon system, we believe that what we operate in the southwest and the northwest region, we operate the Anglo-Saxon system in the northwest and southwest region. But coming to Douala to operate the same system, the environment is quite different. And therefore, the children who have come from northwest and southwest find it very difficult to adapt to the new environment. So that's why we are calling on the separatists and the government to put their hands together to resolve this matter so that people, students, can go back to their origin where they belong, and they should study better and live a better life from what prevails now.
All right, we'll use the rest of the few minutes left for us to talk about some hard realities. And in one of your books, you're talking about hard realities in courtship and marriage.
Yes.
Courtship and marriage seems to be an issue that is not very well handled or understood by many, especially young people today. And that is partly why everywhere we're hearing about divorce, we're hearing about breakups, we're hearing about troubles in couples and things like that. Young people who just got married yesterday, getting into trouble the next day, divorcing the next day, and all of these things happening. Hard realities about courtship and marriage.
Yes.
What are you talking about?
Mr. Babila, I'm very, very happy. And the way you are moving me, you are making me to talk too much. It is good that I should not talk too much about the novel, because tomorrow I have a book launch. Book launch in a DK hotel from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. That is a Saturday. So if I talk about the book to a certain extent, I'll be selling maybe the cat out of the bag, because I need people to come tomorrow to DK Hotel and promote the reading culture and promote the sales of this book. But just as a highlight, it is very true that marriages nowadays are not contracted on merits. What happened with Fanboy as a protagonist in the novel and Owasu, Mindako, Gladys, is that from the first sight, they had love from the first sight. And from the first sight, they could not investigate each other to know that what they are doing was illegal. And from time to time, I actually discovered that this relationship was built on a sandy soil. And that is why at the end of it, after 10 years of union, that particular marriage actually failed, because the foundation was not well laid. I'm advising youngsters, people who want to get married nowadays, that if you want to get married, we should go back to the olden days, where, of course, before you get married to a lady, there was investigation. The parents of the both sides investigated each other, and because of that investigation, they will know whether this marriage, whether this family had witchcraft tendencies, whether this family, the members used to steal, and all those things, of course, contributed. And if you know that in that particular family there was witchcraft tendencies, of course, that marriage will not be contracted. That is what happened with Fine Boy Owasu and Mindako Gladys in Hard Realities. So what I'm trying to advise is that before you go in for marriage,
the marriage, you said something. If there were some tendencies of witchcraft and things like that, the marriage will not continue, or the people will, the two persons involved will prepare well to face the challenges, or will take the necessary precautions
Yes.
to avoid those tendencies from destroying the union.
Good. That's what I'm saying, that before you go in, maybe because nowadays in Cameroon and even in the world beyond, is that before you go in for marriage, you must have maybe been in courtship with a girl. But I'm saying that before you go in for courtship, what you must do is that you have to investigate the family. Like what used to happen in those days. That even me, as a small child, when you delivered a girl and the girl was growing, and since the family knew each other, your parents will even say that maybe Bokwe, that will be your wife in future, because the family knew each other. But what is happening today? People meet in the streets, people meet in bars, people meet in nightclubs and just contract marriage. And when you contract marriage in such conditions, Mr. Babila, that marriage is built on a sunny soil. And that is why the relationship between Fine Boy and Mindako Gladys, after 10 years of union, illegal union, it was illegal union because there was nothing like traditional marriage. There was nothing being done.
What is commonly referred to as come we stay.
A come we stay, a concubine. You have a concubine and you people are living together happily. But you have not seen the both families. You don't know what is going on in family A or family B. So when such marriages are contracted in that mode and a child comes to the union, that union becomes illegal. So I'm advising young lads, young boys nowadays, that before you go in for marriage, you have to investigate. You have to do so many things to know each other first, and after that, you must follow the right steps. And the right steps here is that traditionally we have knock door. After knock door, if the parents approve, the both parties agree, and so on, you go to traditional marriage where the bride price is being paid, and after that, you have to go to the court, to the council at least, to sign your marriage. And of course, being in a mission school, being holistic, you must go to the church to solemnize the marriage so that God can bless you people. And when that is done, when all those stages are realized, at the end of it, the marriage becomes very fruitful. Children start coming, and you not have conflicts in one way or the other. But if all these steps are not followed, Babila, I bet you that marriage will be a marriage of convenience, and the marriage will not go anywhere. This is what happened between Fine Boy and Mindako Gladys. That at the end of it, Mindako Gladys, of course, got sick because they believed that Fine Boy had money, and money was not forthcoming to the family of Mindako Gladys. So at the end, they decided, of course, the family decided to do away with the life of Mindako, and to a certain extent, even the boy that they had in the family, that they had two of them because of the illegal relationship, that boy also kicked the bucket, and it became a very big problem to Fine Boy Owasu.
The example in your book starts with love at first sight.
Good.
What do you think about that, love at first sight?
Yes, that's why I'm saying that love at first sight, you should not be infatuated by the love of a woman. You should not be infatuated by the superlative beauty of a woman. That you see a woman from the first sight and you fall in love with the woman. Remember, all that glitters is not gold. So what I'm advocating as an African is that before you go in, before you see a woman or a girl, a damsel from any angle, you must go in and investigate what is going on in the family. How is the family background? Because it is very good, it's very important that nowadays, that before you go in for marriage or anything, the sparkling nature of the woman does not matter. What matters is the character of the woman. What matters is the background. If the background is good, the background is holistic, the background is God-fearing, and there are no calamities in that family, then you can go in. So I'm advising young men who are going in for marriage, even adults who have failed in their marriages, that if you want to remarry, be very careful, because all that glitters is not gold.
All right, before we go, you equally raised an issue of advice. Fine Boy in your book refused to listen to advice from his parents, from his friends, and he got himself into trouble.
Good. And that is what is happening nowadays. That from the first sight, when you see a damsel, a very beautiful woman, you go in for the woman. And because of excessive love, because of a superlative beauty, a sparkling nature, you are being blindfolded. And whatever thing your parents tell you in terms of counseling, in terms of advice, that where you have entered, you should be very careful. Because of the woman's superlative beauty, you are blindfolded. because of excessive love that you have for that woman, you continue the relationship, and you always see the end of the tunnel, that the tunnel is very, very dark. So what I'm advising young lads, young people nowadays, is that you must hearken to the advice of your parents. When your parents tell you something, don't object it, because we are being told that if you honor your father and mother, your days on earth will be prolonged. This, you get it in the book of Exodus in the Bible.
Dr. Hans Bokwe Etwe, educationist, author of My Days as a Mission Teacher, Hard Realities, and many other books, and principal of Presbyterian Secondary School, Douala. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Babila. And I wish to say that I'm very happy with the way Équinoxe TV is operating in the Republic of Cameroon.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. That's it for today.